Supreme Court of Appeal has dismissed with costs an appeal by former President Jacob Zuma to have his medical parole. He wasn't trying to have his medical parole overturned, but he was fighting a decision which earlier declared his release on medical parole unlawful and invalid. The Constitutional Court sentenced him to 15 months for defying an order to appear before the Commission of Inquiry into state capture, but he served about 2 months in actual incarceration and was then granted medical parole by the former corrections boss Arthur Fraser, rather controversially, because the Medical Parole Advisory Board had advised against it. Zuma cited ill health, but the DA and the Helen Suzman Foundation went to court seeking an urgent application to have his parole set aside. Let's get the view now of another organization that's been fighting the former president's release on medical parole. We can speak to the campaign officer for strategy and content at Afriforum, Reiner Duvenage. Reiner, very good afternoon to you. Grateful for your time. So, around this time last year, when the High Court made its order against the granting of medical parole to former President Jacob Zuma, you said as Afriforum that you were delighted with the ruling. Are you feeling much the same today?
Good afternoon, Tembe. Good afternoon to the viewers. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be on your show. Yes, we feel that this is a step in the right direction. The High Court in Pretoria made the ruling that the time served on medical parole could not be deducted from the sentence. Today, the Supreme Court of Appeal said that Zuma had to report to the escort prison again, but that it could not make a ruling with regard to the deduction of the sentence, and that this is now in the hands of the National Commissioner of Correctional Services. And I have to say as well that Afriforum, we are going to be petitioning to the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, making a legal petition to make sure that the correct steps are taken in this regard.
What do you want him to do specifically? Is what you're seeking to do to have the Correctional Services Commissioner say that the former president needs to basically go back and serve some time in an actual prison?
Yes, our view is that Mr. Zuma, former President Zuma, should serve the remainder of his sentence in prison. And of course, this is now in the hands of the National Commissioner. That's why we will be making petitions, submitting legal petitions to the National Commissioner. And yes, for us, it's very important that no politician should be seen as above the law. It's a very dangerous precedent you're setting if prominent politicians with political connections receive special treatment. That's not the society or the country that we want to live in.
And so if not the Constitutional Court, pardon me, if the Correctional Services Commissioner does not go to those lengths in remedying the situation, so to speak, what will you do? Will you take this new commissioner to court as well?
Yeah, that's something we'll have to debate, and we've been speaking to our legal counsel this morning. It's something that we cannot announce at the moment. At the moment, our steps that we will be taking is to make legal petitions to the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, and then seeing from there, we'll develop our strategy. But that's not something, unfortunately, that I can comment on right now. But we will be doing everything within our powers at Afriforum to make sure that justice is served and that no politicians are treated as above the law.
Is it not enough, do you think, to have a court having said that indeed the release of the former president was unlawful and invalid? Why is that not vindication enough for organizations such as yourself who always said that decision was wrong?
Well, of course, it's a very important step that it vindicates us that we were saying this from the beginning. The High Court said it, and now the Supreme Court of Appeal has said it. So that's a very important thing that Afriforum and the DA and other organizations have been vindicated in saying that this was wrongfully granted. But the most important thing is also that justice is served in this case. Again, like I mentioned earlier in this interview, we cannot have a situation where prominent politicians are treated differently from the average person on the street. We should all be treated equally in front of the law.
So, Reiner, you've got the cost order, right? But it's not, at the moment, it covers the former president, Jacob Zuma. Yes, it also covers the office of the Corrections Commissioner, the Correctional Services Commissioner, rather than the person who made the decision, which was Arthur Fraser. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, well, certainly we're very happy that there's a cost order against the appellants in this case. And in terms of who's going to pay, I mean, that's all being determined by the courts. And certainly it just provides further vindication of how right we were in filing this legal application, because the fact that we received a cost order shows that we truly proved our case, and that this decision was wrongfully taken and was illegal. And now we're going to have to take this over the goal line, and we're going to have to make sure that justice is served at the end of the day. That's the most important thing for us. But this is a very important first step, and it shows that the court made a very solid decision in this regard.
Reiner Duvenage, good to speak to you. Thank you.